Thank you very, very much. I am really, really thrilled to be here. It is an outrageous honor. I want to thank AFI for being such a force for filmmakers and in particular for women filmmakers for the last 40 years. It's so, so important. And a special congratulations to all the filmmakers here, the people who've been chosen for the program, the people who are showing their films. You guys are continuing on a journey of finding your voice and making movies that have never been made before. I'm fortunate to even have a career. I'm fortunate to have been able to make 3 feature films, Boys Don't Cry, Stop Loss, Carrie. I've done some TV and I've done some shorts. And I'm very personally proud of the stuff that I've done, and I feel lucky that I've been able to do it, and I hope to keep doing it. But you know, an interesting thing happened after I did my second movie, when I was doing press for Stop Loss. As with Boys, I was really excited to talk about what I loved about directing, because that's something you guys will do when you promote your movies. I thought I was going to talk about depicting the real-life stories of soldiers that I had interviewed, because my brother had fought in war. I'd talk about finding new actors like Channing Tatum, or working with my actors and directing these intense war scenes. But instead, I encountered one question over and over and over. Why did it take so long to make a second movie? I feel like I can safely say that none of the women directors in this room would probably ever ask that of another woman director. We all know why. Less than 6% of the top 250 films and only 14% of television episodes in 2013 were directed by women. The statistics make it clear. Women cannot get enough work in our industry. And Amy Pascal, who is the Sony studio chief and a great ally to women filmmakers, put it boldly in an interview for Forbes magazine when she said, and I don't want to depress you guys because there's a silver lining here, the whole system is geared for women to fail, and we're going to have to change a lot of what we do to change that. So look, this was my question. Why would they position the question of a woman not working enough as a personal failure rather than a structural problem that we all face that needs to be solved? By the time I finished my third feature, Stephen King's Carrie, also for a major studio, and congratulations to that studio for hiring a woman, I was thrilled that I never would have to answer the question why it took so long to make my second movie. I was ready to talk about working with Julianne Moore and Chloe Moretz, to directing action scenes and writing and designing CG and special effects. But over and over I got another question. Why hadn't I made more movies? Look, I'm humbled that anybody wants to see anything I make. But something was really weirdly familiar about that question. Wait, it was the same question. Again, positioning the amount of work a woman is able to get as a personal failure as opposed to a structural problem. Now, why was this happening when Carrie had clearly made a lot of money, and I humbly say it was written about as one of only a few or 2 profitable big movies made by women that year? Well, let me tell you a little anecdote about women in the Hollywood industry. When I was first asked to direct Carrie, I was concerned. I love the original, I'm friends with Brian De Palma, and I would never trespass on another director's material. So before I accepted the job, I called him up. And actually, he said, can we talk on Skype? So we had this very wild Skype conversation. Brian's very ahead of the curve. And I said, you know, how do you feel about me doing this? And he's like, well, you've got to do it. I said, okay, good. But then he said, what are you going to do about that ending? And I said, oh, I know you revolutionized horror endings with that jump scare of the hand coming out of the grave. That was the perfect ending. And he just stared at me, and I said, I'm working on it. So I took the job, and I found out that we were shooting in 4 short months. My friend, writer Scott Silver, and I raced to rewrite the script. I looked at dozens of jump scares, how they worked, how they were shot, how they were edited, and the ending was evading us. Then one day, Scott sent me a clip of Lars von Trier's The Kingdom. It's about a haunted hospital, and there were all these disturbing images. Suddenly, a woman was giving birth, and out came a full-grown man's face. Scary, funny, weird. I jumped. I was like, whoa, that's scary. So I immediately sent the scene to the executives, and they agreed. It was scary. It was funny. And I suggested, look, We could have a full-grown Carrie or Carrie's hand being birthed, something along those lines. They liked the idea, but they were concerned about something. They wouldn't or they couldn't at first articulate what it was. Finally, one of them ventured, "So you really want to show a vagina?" I said, "Well, not necessarily. I want to give people a scare, but how will you do that without, shooting the vagina?" I said, "Look, there's lots of great birth scenes in movies that don't show a vagina if that's not what they're about. The Fly, Aliens, Game of Thrones." But still, there was a very big concern about the vagina. So I had to shoot an ending that didn't work, that wasn't a jump scare, and the audience said so in a test screening. And then with the release looming, of course, they came to me, in a panic, and they said, "What about that ending you wrote?" I was like, "Okay, well, here's that ending." They loved it, they greenlit it, but as we were moving towards production, again, they were very focused on exactly how I would shoot it, on what we would see. Now I was getting confused. I had shot a lot of nude scenes. I had shot a dildo packing scene, teen girls showering, gay sex, straight sex, oral sex, anal sex, stripping, rape. I didn't even realize all that till this afternoon. But in all of that, I had never had a vagina issue. I had never suddenly felt compelled on set to take the camera and run it up to a vagina and film it. And I have lesbian tendencies. And even if I had, this could have been remedied. Just don't show the fucking scene. Anyway, so then I began to see where the problem lay. When one guy started forming a sentence that should have included the word vagina, he would just stop. So when you have to shoot the hand coming out of and there was silence. Then there was giggles. Then finally it came out, the vajayjay. The vajayjay? Really? The cooter, the whole other euphemisms. Now, a number of these men were married with kids, and presumably their wives have vaginas, and their kids came out of those vaginas. It was fascinating to me that they were uncomfortable with birth scenes and vaginas. It felt like the 1950s, and I also thought that the vagina monologues had solved this. But, and I will encourage you to do this, your job is to allay everybody's fears. So I got my storyboard artist, and every day we storyboarded. I put down every shot, every angle. I got a 3/4 body prosthetic. No real vaginas were harmed or exposed on my set. I did 3 days of camera tests from every angle, side, low, looking up at her face, high, looking down at what was being birthed. And yes, I did shoot straight at the vagina and realized, as everybody realized, it didn't work. Finally, I was having a production meeting. The guy who hadn't been able to say the word vagina said it a few times, proudly. "So you'll shoot towards the vagina, but not at the vagina." Then excitedly, "Can you believe we're all at a work meeting saying the word vagina?" The ending tested well, and for a while it looked like we were going to use it in the release, but then they decided it was going to be too polarizing, so they put it on the DVD. So why have I bothered to tell you this story, and what does it have to do with women in film? And your future? One, is it any wonder we struggle to get jobs in an industry where some, not all men, have a hard time even saying the word vagina, dealing with the idea of birthing, of things coming out or going into vaginas? Nearly every woman I have talked to has come up against this sort of thing and has a crazy anecdote, maybe crazier than mine, whether it's in the independent world or the studio system. Why? Because this is not one man's vagina problem, any more than it's one woman's problem of getting hired. And basically, it's a system that is giving us obstacles that we have to overcome. Every time we get hired, every time we work, every time we push back, we make change. The guy who had the hard time saying vagina, he now can say it, and he will know to say it the next time such a scene comes up. Over and over and over. But look, as a filmmaker who has managed to venture into territory that often hits up against what I like to think of as cultural edges and obstacles, because I always feel like I'm pushing it some small boundary, I have found, and I think this is the good news, Audiences are desperate for new and exciting material, for new and exciting stories. For characters and stories that they can love deeply, and for things that they know are true in their hearts but they may not have seen. Now that's really good news because you hold those stories. You are the future of a cinema that has not yet been determined and has not yet been shown. It will be hard to break new ground. It always is. And it will be even harder because you're women. But it is worth fighting for. You're not going to win every battle, I can tell you, because I try to win every battle. But you're also not going to lose every battle. Look, my studio gave me the resources, and they were immense, to write, shoot, edit, screen, and put on the screen and out there in test audiences a scene that they basically thought was about a vagina. I mean, it wasn't, but that's what they were afraid of, and still they let me do it, and now it exists on a DVD, and I think that that's a win. I think it's our jobs as writers and directors to fight every one of these good fights, as you're doing, to find our voice, to tell the stories we know and love in the ways only we can tell them. And that's the most important thing, because that's what you're going to be fighting for all the time, whether it's against money, whether it's against somebody who may not understand it. You're just trying to get inside of your story and to breathe life in it in a way that only you can do, and that thing will live on. And I believe if you do that, you're not only going to make work, but you're going to make meaning, and you're going to make entertainment, and you're going to make change. So ladies, rock on, ladies.